Undoubtedly going down in the annals of history for its swearing, shagging, and, well, incest, Game of Thrones also became famous during its tenure for violent and gory deaths. From the iconic decapitation of Ned Stark in Season 1 to the flame-fried cadavers and blue-lipped face-twisted poisonings of later series, there was always an unfortunate and dramatic demise just around the corner in this show. But look, this isn't new to you. You've no doubt seen What Culture's era-defining work cataloguing the most brutal, underrated, satisfying, shocking, and arousing deaths. But what about the living nightmares? What about all those moments where having your skull crushed in someone's hand would, if we're honest, have been preferable? Well, my name is Adam Cleary and these are 10 Game of Thrones fates worse than death. Number 10, the torture of Theon Greyjoy. Poor Theon. Taken from his family following a failed rebellion and held prisoner by Lord Eddard Stark at Winterfell, Theon's gruff and offhand demeanour hardly endears him to the viewer during his tumultuous Season 1. And by gruff and offhand demeanour, I just mean being a piece of In the aftermath of Eddard Stark's execution though, Theon initially pledges to serve Robb Stark, but, well, just betrays him instead and seizes control of Winterfell. This is where it all starts to go wrong for Theon. Actually, no, to be totally honest, I think where it all started to go wrong for him was when he just accidentally fingered his sister on a horse, but comme ci comme ça. Betrayed by his own men, Theon is captured by Roose Bolton. However, Roose's bastard son and fully fledged nutbag Ramsay Snow has different ideas, and subjects Theon to some of the most horrific torture imaginable, even helping him to escape at one point before leading him straight back to the cursed torture chamber. Sadistic and brutal, Ramsay successfully subjugates Theon, culminating in a savage castration at the end of Season 3. Just not nice. Number 9, the lonely existence of EDMURE Tully. The Red Wedding is one of the most dramatic moments in Game of Thrones, nay in TV full stop, but EDMURE, despite being the groom, misses out on all of the fun. Taken off to a chamber for the bedding ceremony, the younger brother of Catelyn Stark is absent as his sister, friends and allies are all brutally slaughtered, and yeah, you know what, it's been over 7 years now, but I'm still not alright with it. For EDMURE, his fate is far more elongated. Held captive at the grim Frey castle, the Lord of House Tully is briefly released, only to be used as a humiliating bargaining chip in Season 6 before being returned to the slimy dungeons of the twins. Finally released from his incarceration in the final season, EDMURE bumbles his way around the trial of Tyrion Lannister, but nevertheless retains his position as Lord of the Riverlands. Looking distinctly, how do I put this, trimmer, it doesn't look like the room service was up to much in the Frey ancestral home. Number 8, Married to the Monster. While she does end Game of Thrones as Queen of the North, there is no doubt that relationships proved a rocky road for young Sansa Stark. Initially betrothed to the handsome young Prince Joffrey Baratheon, it isn't long before Sansa discovers the true nature of the future king, that he is a bag. In one particularly distressing scene, King Joffrey, displeased at Robb Stark's victory over the Battle of the Oxcross, has his bride-to-be stripped and beaten in front of his court before Tyrion intervenes on her behalf. This, somehow, was not the worst of it. Manipulated by Peter Baelish into marriage once more, Sansa endures the vices and whims of another demented bastard son, the recently legitimized Ramsay Bolton. After their wedding ceremony, Ramsay violently and forcefully consummates the marriage. Even knowing how satisfying her eventual revenge would be, this is still one of the show's darkest ever moments. Number 7, a terrible choice. Now, bards are A, really annoying, but also B, a staple of all fantasy epics. Game of Thrones is no different. In Season 1, we meet a troubadour named Marillion. After joining up with Catelyn Stark's trip to the Eyrie, Marillion survives the attack of the Hill Tribes before making his way back to King's Landing. Once there, he continues to ply his trade, writing and performing a salacious and facetious song about the recently departed King Robert. Unfortunately for the bard, newly minted King Joffrey learns of the affront and has him brought before the court. Here he is given a difficult choice by the vicious new king: lose your hands or lose your tongue. Marillion makes his decision, and as Sir Elan Payne abruptly removes the latter, a trip to the King's Landing Job Centre beckons for a man who has had his exceptional talent removed forever. Number 6, not such quality family time. Ellaria Sand makes her debut in Season 4 of Game of Thrones, arriving grandly with her love Prince Oberyn Martell. After witnessing the Mountain mistake his cranium for Play-Doh, she returns to her home in Dorne, fostering a fierce desire to inflict revenge on Cersei Lannister. Oberyn's brother, Prince Doran, has different ideas, going so far as to return the Lannister's daughter. Seemingly placated, Ellaria kisses her on the lips as she departs for King's Landing, transmitting a deadly poison to the girl which proceeds to take her life aboard the returning ship. Gonna put this as mildly as I can here, but Cersei Lannister is also not the forgiving type. And when imprisoned beneath the Red Keep, Ellaria is forced to watch as Cersei poisons her eldest daughter in the same manner Ellaria killed hers. The difference being here that Ellaria is forced to endure the purgatory of watching her child fade away and turn to dust as the poison slowly eats her alive, before living out the rest of her days starving to death beneath her rotting corpse. That was the nuclear option in that situation, not gonna lie. Number 5, The Curse of the Stone Men. Disease doesn't often get a chance to take many of the residents of Westeros, so it's apt that the disfiguring affliction of grayscale sometimes leaves the poor unfortunate in a state of ugly limbo. Shunned by the major societies for fear of spreading the disease, stone men are normally exiled to ruins like Old Valyria in order to live out their days in joyless suffering. With there being no practical cure, the misery of the stone men is completed by their descent into animalistic madness, the insidious illness perverting the mind as it does the skin. That's all I've really got on this one, just most people would rather die. Moving on. Number 4, Hold the Door. In Season 6, Hodor is revealed to have been the articulate stable boy Willis. How this popular lad turns into the laconic bumbler we know is a tragic tale of a person caught up in events well beyond their understanding. As Bran Stark explores his newfound warging abilities in the Cave of the Three-Eyed Raven, the White Walkers are drawn towards his party. In the pandemonium that ensues, Bran accidentally wargs into the mind of Willis in the past, connecting the minds of both the boy and his present-day incarnation. The damage is calamitous, sending Willis into a seizure, permanently tethering his mind to his future self and merging the last words he ever hears, hold the door, into one, Hodor. Don't get me wrong, he still managed to live a rich and full life regardless, but it's one where he is constantly trapped in the very moment of his own demise, getting chewed alive by a pack of zombies. Number 3, Gregor Clegane's Living Death. There will be few, if any, who sympathise with the torrid non-existence that Gregor Clegane is forced to endure. As cruel as he is strong, the Mountain regularly terrorised the inhabitants of Westeros before meeting his match in Oberyn Martell. Summoned as the Crown's combatant in the trial by combat of Tyrion Lannister, the Mountain eventually bests his opponent after a brief seesawing fight. The Prince of Dorne does sort of get the last laugh, however, as upon his spear is manticore venom, a nasty poison that decays the flesh while keeping the victim alive. Now with all this dead and rotting flesh literally hanging off his still living body, the Mountain is, and I use the term loosely, saved by disgraced former maester Qyburn. Encased within the gold-plated armour of the Kingsguard, Clegane's bloodshot eyes and low growls are all that betray the zombie-like state that the Mountain has become. A mindless killing machine with unswerving obedience to his master, Queen Cersei. I just really think this one would suck. Number 2, Give the Man a Hand. No one is exempt from a horrid experience in Game of Thrones. Not even the Kingslayer himself, Jaime Lannister. Handsome, charming, remind you of anybody, and in love with his sister, oops, never mind, the eldest son of Tywin Lannister is soon promoted to Lord Commander of the Kingsguard following the death of King Robert Baratheon. As an expert swordsman, Jaime relies chiefly on his right hand in combat, and it is this appendage that is so cruelly removed early in Season 3. Having already spent a year as a muddy captive of the Starks, the Kingslayer is weak by the time he is captured by Roose Bolton's errant lackey Locke. Annoyed by Jaime's constant attempts at buying favour, Locke pretends to release him before suddenly chopping off his sword hand with a carving knife. Now, for you or me, this is certainly not pleasant, but far from the end of the world. But for Jaime Lannister, a man who has defined his entire existence by his ability ability with a sword, this is beyond comprehension. Without the skills that hand granted him, his life is devoid of any substance, and it's entire seasons later in the show before he somehow pieces it back together again. Number 1. The Walk of Shame. Kept at bay by Tywin Lannister, the Sparrow movement gains traction upon his death and even encompasses his nephew Lancel. Led by the High Sparrow, Season 5 sees the faction begin to assume control of King's Landing. Helped by Queen Cersei, sensing an opportunity to strengthen the crown, the High Sparrow becomes the High Septon, using the reformed faith militant to strike at immoral locations throughout the city. Eventually, and well, inevitably, their gaze falls on the Tyrells and Cersei herself. Arrested due to her illicit relationship with Lancel, who, if you've not mathsed that one yet, is her cousin. Cersei's punishment is the Walk of Atonement, a turbulent naked trudge back to the Red Keep, where she will await trial as a sinner of the highest order. With the baying crowd flinging spit and feces and other things, it's an intense experience for anyone watching, never mind Cersei herself. While not seriously harmed physically during this ordeal, Cersei Lannister's egregious punishment at the hands of the Sparrows is one of the most psychologically disturbing events in the whole show, the culmination of it being one of the few moments where she ever showed any weakness. So there you have it, those are 10 Game of Thrones fates worse than death, and no, we didn't even include having to watch some of the final season again. Let us know what you made of it all in the comments below, and of course don't forget to like, share and subscribe. In the meantime though, thank you so much for watching. I have of course been Adam Cleary, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.